I definitely think I bring personality to the team first and foremost. I love working on teams and developing culture within groups. So I think you're going to get a guy there. I think you're going to get a guy who cares more about his team first. You're going to get a team first kind of guy. But then, you know, obviously I can swim a 200 pretty well. And I think, my 150 have a lot of work to be done. But at the same time, I feel like I'm just growing into my body.
Welcome back to the Social Kick Podcast. I'm Brian Lundquist. We got a full crew this evening. Dr. John Mullen, Luke Paddington, and straight off of the Cal Texas dual meet in Greensboro, North Carolina, Reece Whitley. What's up, Reese?
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Well, let's start with reactions to the meet.
Yeah. Oh, just in general?
yeah, in general. We're piping.
This is easy.
It was crazy. I definitely forgot how stressful the NCAAs can be. I've always kind of thought that I got a little spoiled my freshman year just because we walked in with such a squad that I didn't really need to do much in order for us to win. I just kind of didn't need to DQ the relays. We knew Sully was going to take care of the 200, and I just needed to kind of be there in the 100. And we obviously won by like 85 points. So the stress levels were pretty low throughout that meet. I was just kind of losing sleep from excitement for the next day. Whereas in this year, it was like, oh my goodness, like this is really close. And you're kind of thinking about, all the different scenarios that could happen on any different night. But obviously disappointed with the outcome. I mean, when you come to Cal, you don't compete to get second. You compete to win, whether that's in individual races or as a team. But, you can't win them all. And this one definitely stings, and it's okay to let it sting. You kind of have to lean into that. And our boys are definitely motivated after putting up, more points than we ever have and still getting second, definitely hurts, but we're gonna keep it going for this summer and for next season.
That was ridiculous, the concentration of points between two teams. I don't think that's ever been seen before.
Yeah, I was looking at the past results over the years, and I don't think any team has kind of done that, at least since the early 2000s. Maybe I think there was once, but yeah, it was pretty Cal Texas dominant.
You think that's good for the sport?
That's a tough question. I've actually never been asked that. I think it's good for storylines. Maybe, when the meet airs in 2 weeks, I know that's going to be kind of the hot topic is, these teams have been battling for, upwards of a decade now. But, I would like to see maybe stuff spread out a little bit. Be careful what you wish for. We don't want somebody, popping up on us next year. But I think lower, I guess, ranked. I think the whole ranking system is stupid, but the whole ranking concept, lower teams like Florida, NC State, what have you, that maybe not, aren't winning a national title, are really moving up. I mean, Florida had an incredible meet, and all those boys should be proud. Just talking to Kieran Smith, who's been a friend of mine for a while now. And kids like Dylan Hillis, who I've known since they were teenagers, and seeing them progress and moving up really well within the ranks. They're going to be a real force to be reckoned with next year, and we shouldn't take them very lightly.
Yeah, they got their whole team coming back too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, everyone's coming back, right? Seniors can come back. You got freshmen coming in. What are your thoughts on that rule? And do you think that's going to, I don't know, goof up the travel teams or just the squad numbers in general?
I think it could. But then again, I think it's also going to make people step up maybe in ways that they wouldn't have before. Like if, you know, I'm not going to name any names, but if some guy in a certain like stroke position were to stay, maybe and unexpectedly stay, you know, that may get one of our freshman guys coming in to, you know, start working now as opposed to, you know, when they get to campus, maybe when the team is a bit more spread out. It was really hard to make our travel team this year. So, I mean, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when, you know, I don't know which seniors are returning, but if they do, it's definitely going to be hard.
Yeah, it's kind of cool for the sport of swimming to have this other carrot out there with the ISL as a reason to leave. Otherwise, you know, there are very few elite swimmers who leave or forego years of eligibility, and for those, it's like some big name contracts, right? And,
yeah.
so now there's this other carrot, and yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a few names on your team that certainly have some ISL future in them. Yeah. So
I wonder how many GMs called guys seniors on the last night NCs. That's Hivin Coleman's short story last year, right? It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Any seniors get calls?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I haven't talked to them about that, but I'm sure there have been a couple.
Yeah.
You know, we got some really talented boys, obviously, in that class. So I know Durden's gonna try his hardest to make a case for why, you know, it might be better for them to stay. But obviously, if, you know, certain guys see, you know, great opportunity in the ISL, I think Durden is obviously going to push them to do that and pursue their goals, just like I would. You know, I would love to have every one of them back, but I know that there are more opportunities in the ISL, and, you know, I want to see them do just as well as anybody. So, you know, they're going to go out there and get their money.
Do we think these GMs are going to be pushing the recruiting envelope and like, because there's got to be no regulation on contacting college swimmers? Like, do we think like Sandino and Lezak, are they going to be like, all right, I'm going to start buttering or starting talking with these guys early on? I don't know. I could see, obviously, there's not too much money in swimming, even the ISL. So I'm not, like I said, I don't think it needs to be too tightly regulated, but I'm intrigued to know how much these GMs are going to start pushing the contact envelope.
Especially people that are seniors, you mean? Like
no,
seniors?
I mean even like juniors and sophomores, and Reese, you know, but even people like Reese. Obviously, he's got ISL upside. You know, if Lezak is talking to him, I'm not sure the NCAA is kind of checking in on it to make sure it's being regulated. And obviously, you don't want to, you know, put your eligibility on the line. But I don't know.
Well, to clear my name, I have not talked to anyone.
All right, there you go.
Well, we are forming our own team, okay? It's called the Social Kick. We're
recording right now.
Yeah, the fastest kick as possible. There we go.
Yeah, the NCAA is always watching, so gotta be careful. But no, I think I think there's kind of two sides to it, because, you know, if these NIL rules do get passed, you know, that may be a reason for them to back off and kind of wait. But, you know, if they don't, then and athletes are mad about that and really do see, you know, there being a greater value in, you know, skipping a year or two of college to go make money and support their families in the ISL, then, you know, I don't see why that's not a possibility. Because, you know, it gets harder and harder to kind of take advantage of opportunities nowadays. There's so many fast swimmers. And obviously, you know, time goes by really fast and a lot of things can happen. So biting on opportunities become, you know, more important by the day. So
you brought up NIL, so name, is it image and likability? And
yeah,
that's kind of what's going on. Some people don't know through some of the court system for some of the college athletes to get paid off of those characteristics. Do we think swimmers are going to be getting anything, even the top end swimmers off of NIL?
Yeah, I think so. You know, there's a lot of guys who I think are very marketable. I think someone like myself is pretty marketable. And I could definitely figure out ways to maximize profitability for, you know, firms when it happens. But even on a talent level, guys like Shane, guys like Hoff, they're visible. They're very visible in their, in the swimming world, but then in smaller markets that, companies may not even realize that they're tapped into. So I think there's opportunity for everybody in all sports, and I hope everybody gets paid.
Definitely. All right, I got to bring up Hoff's post-meet interviews. We loved his interviews. They were the best. He just seemed so excited back there after all the wins. So maybe what were your thoughts? Or do you guys hear the interviews, or who do you like to hear being interviewed post-race?
Well, I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I usually keep off of like ESPN, like when the meet starts, and I definitely stay away from the other websites out there and that produce a little bit of toxicity every now and then. But I think Hoff is probably one of the most positive individuals that I know, and definitely one of the closest, my closest homies on the team. I love seeing him do his thing. But I mean, Hoff's a winner. We've always known that. And he was really on display this week, and I'm just so proud of obviously everything that he's been through the past year with the pandemic, and still coming out on top and everything that he's doing. Unbelievably proud of that guy.
It showed, and it showed how much he was enjoying it. Reese, when we first reached out to you, you wanted to just chill and focus on the meets until after the meets, and then when we asked you after the meet just now, what was the takeaways? You just talked about Cal and the team and overall, and that's just kudos. That's kudos to your focus and your driving motivation. But we're gonna take it back to you a little bit. I want to take it to some of your swims. We all saw your swims. We were rooting for you big time.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I love the raw display and emotions throughout. From after. Talk us through some of your races. First of all, your best time in the 200 breaststroke, is it a 48.5 at Cal Stanford 2020? Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and that's, for those who are listening, that's the second fastest performance of all time, behind the record, right? So talk us about this weekend, the ups and downs. What was great about this weekend? What's frankly sucked? And did you lose your contacts? Go ahead.
No. I definitely don't think that this meet was an accurate representation of the work that I've been doing over the past year. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but I was this summer was my best training summer ever. Regardless of where it was, because we weren't allowed at Cal, I was getting it in, and I had a lot of confidence going into the season for all three of my races. Let's see, 2 IM up front wasn't very good. It was the best time, but I trained with the world's best IMers. I shouldn't be 143 anymore. But making slow steps and kind of figuring that out has been fun. Just training with those guys is fun. So 5 numbers on a board and a 2 IM and my third event aren't going to get me really riled up or anything. I guess that night had a 4 medley relay that was pretty close.
Yeah.
Again, 50.5 isn't very good. But I did what I needed to do. I had a solid back 50. My first time back in under 27 in a while. So that was good. Took away that. 100 breast the next day. Obviously, all of our work has kind of been focused on long course swimming, and my event this summer is probably going to be the long course 200 breaststroke. So to come down and try to, get excited for a 100-yard swim has been tough for me this season. I just felt kind of forced, and I was just kind of racing to get my hand on the wall. And third place isn't bad. It's not about times, really. It's just about scoring points. And if I was doing that, it's better to do that than focus on a time. But the 200 the next day, definitely the morning wasn't bad. I feel like I was pretty controlled through and through. But then at night, I think I was just kind of in my head. I felt really bad in warm up. I guess I can say that now that the meet's over. You know, yeah, it's just, you know, I haven't swam a 200 on the last day of NCs in, you know, 2 years. And I forgot what it took to kind of pull that through and try to go, you know, 148, 147. You know, that's hard. And I knew that would be hard. You know, I didn't really, you know, even back when that 145.8 happened, or 148.5, sorry. Yeah, that would be gnarly. But even when that happened, like, I wasn't like that excited because I knew that that's not like really legit, right? Like, it's kind of a one and done type of thing. You know, that's not representative of what it really takes to swim fast in a two breast. You know, it's about what you got on that last day at NCs. And I definitely found out. So I'll remember that pain going into training for this summer and next year.
You mentioned this in the beginning, but what about being the man this time around for breaststroke at Cal? How did that change kind of your mentality for the meet?
Just to put on for the boys. We have a great breaststroke tradition at Cal. Obviously led by, you know, David Durden coaching our breaststrokers. And then you got guys like Prino and Selly, obviously, but Connor Hoppy, Duganiak back in the day, like all those boys. And it was cool to be in that position. We got some young breaststrokers right now that are coming up, and we got some recruits coming in that definitely need to step up if this team wants to win. So I take pride in that and being the leader of that group right now. I just wish I, you know, could have been a bit better of an example on the podium, but they know I work hard and they know that we all push each other. So
when you go a best time at a dual meet, obviously that dual meet comes so late in the season that you're got to be close to peaking by that point anyway. So, but like for you as somebody who swims both 100 and 200, and then obviously a meet like NCs being stretched out to some of the 50 on the 2 medley, do you have kind of a sweet spot for taper where sometimes you're like more tapered for the 200 and sometimes more for the 100? And how did you feel like, where were you positioned for this meet?
Well, I think, you know, like I said, like the bulk of our work has been very long course focused, you know, whether that comes in a yards practice or not. So I can't say that, you know, this year we did a ton of power towers and a bunch of power work that was going to help me for, you know, going a 22 and a 50 on a relay, or, you know, another 50-point low in 100. You know, I really want to be good at the 200 long course this summer. And I definitely think this season, just the training that we've been doing has definitely been geared more towards the longer events, which is probably why my 200 was my best event this season. But I don't think there's necessarily a sweet spot. I mean, speed is speed. And I'm not new to like trying to balance both hundreds and 200s. You know, I feel like I've been pretty even at both throughout my career. I think this year that's just kind of the way things kind of shaped out.
You have so many different ways that you swim your 200 alone. Like in the prelims, we saw like that last 50 was different. You were like 3-3, 4-4, then 5-6 stroke counts, right? And then in your finals, it was a whole different race. You were racing max. You're just like going for it, and it's like what about the 3-3, 4-4, you just went to race and went for it. But I'm really being this up because I'm interested to know. The focus is long course. The focus is you know, a long straight vault turns. What's your plan for long course? How do you want to swim that 2 breast long course?
Well, I won't give everything in case people are watching, but
we spoke to Marco Cook, and Marco told us what he's going to come back in. He didn't say what he's going to go out in, so we know.
True. Well, I don't know what my splits are going to be, but I'm going to try to get down to a 1.5 tempo as best as I can. Plain and simple. That's, you know, stroke times stroke rate equals world record. So if I can figure out how to use my strengths and maintain a 1.5 tempo, I think I'll be in a good position to go fast this summer. I'll just put it that way.
All right. Well, I'll ask a follow-up. We'll try to get to some firmer stuff one way or another. What do you think makes top 2 at the Olympic trials in the 200 breast for the U.S.?
I think it's going to take a 206 high. You know, there are a lot of guys on that, you know, who have been 207 before, who have been 208, and who have been training for a very long time now. So I think if you go 207.5, you don't make the team. So that's kind of the way I've been thinking about it, you know, ever since last summer. So
when's the last time you were ready for 200 breaststroke long course? Means that you trained for it, you rested for it, and you got up and raced for it properly, you'd say. Don't tell me junior 4 years ago. You beat something.
Yeah. I think, I mean, the 200, we were training for the 200 summer 2019. So I think that's probably the last time. I wouldn't say, I mean, there's so many things that I've picked up since then. It's almost hard to even, it's almost hard to like, yes, I did taper for that, but there's so many things that I wasn't doing in terms of recovery and in terms of what I'm thinking about when I'm swimming. That was almost like a different swimmer. So I guess, you know, I haven't really figured out what I could go in a 200 long course with what I know now and with the approach that I take to training now. So I'm excited to see what we got.
How often are you going to get a chance to race it between now and wave 1 of trials?
So we've done a number of suited efforts in long course. I think we might have done a 200 back in the fall, maybe. I don't remember exactly what it was. We've done like a bunch of broken efforts, and I've again had some good swims that I'm excited about, and that definitely suggests that yes, I could go best time this summer and put myself in the hunt. So.
Man, that 200 breaststroke has really been one of the standout events at trials where like, don't bet on whatever you picked on paper. I'll just say that. Scott Usher in 08, Welts in 12. I mean, you had like Burkle and Scott Spann and you know, some people that you thought might make it, and then some others, I don't know. And like that's a deep final. It's gonna be a hard final to get in, first of all, but it's going to be one of those finals where I feel like just about anything could happen. And I agree. Just pick your shot. But if you show up and go 206, then you're damn well going to give yourself a chance of making the team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are young guys, there are older guys, there are guys right in the middle, like myself. And yeah, there are definitely going to be more than 8 guys that deserve to be in that final. But you know, it's about who has the first good one on that morning and then comes back and backs it up, and then whoever gets the best sleep after semis going into that next day. So
and not just on the US scene, but even the world scene, there's so many guys around that world record cut. We've talked to a few guys that think there might be a big jump on that record. Do you think we're going to see a jump on that record this year? Like a, I don't know, 204, something nuts like that?
I mean, 204 is. I mean, 204 is nuts. Yeah, that's like. I mean,
that's skipping time. I mean, come on.
Well, this guy said it. This guy said, "I'm warning you." Whoa. That guy said it. He said it that there's a big jump coming, because how can you go a 6 and 100 and you're still going 206s? Why are people slowing down so much that last 100? He won his bronze medal because he is the one who slowed down the least and end up coming third. So why are people slowing down so much? Why is there such a disparity between 100 and 200? And Sergio Lopez talked about it big time.
Hey, is that the future head coach of Texas? Is that who you just showed?
I don't know.
No one okay, no worries.
Listen,
guys, I'm going to apply, okay?
All know this breaststroke talk. If you just did freestyle the last 50, you'd go way faster.
True.
Think smarter, not harder. There you go.
Hey, I want to talk about being 6'8" and a breaststroker. First of all, you had Demir, who I remember watching, and that guy just, God, it just didn't look right, because usually you see people and go, okay, taller bodies are backstrokers and freestylers, long axis stuff, and then a lot of times your shorter bodies are short axis strokes. So it's kind of an anomaly. You're not the first 6'8" guy I don't know how tall he was. I think he was 6'8". To swim breaststroke at Cal, but then we just watched Emery Sachi tear up the 50 breaststroke, especially in the ISL. So but I mean, totally different approaches, and you focusing on the 200. It's I'm wondering what you're thinking about other tall men who have swum breaststroke and stroke mechanics. Do you ever think about that and look to emulate things or learn things, specifically guys who are taller and bigger bodies like you are?
No, I don't really watch anybody else. I feel like that's almost in a stroke like breaststroke and with a different body than other guys. I mean, yeah, with me, I'm more 6'9", 6'10" now. I don't know. I think 6'8" is a little outdated. But
we have a swimming
around on
yeah. But with guys like Sachi, and there's so many different body types, I don't really think it's important to look at others. Almost not at this point in my game and in my career. I need to lock in on myself and figure out what I'm gonna do. Yes, that means can you look at somebody's 200 and maybe see a little bit of a different core connection and try to learn what that feels like in your own body. But in terms of analyzing other, I'm not really looking at other people's strokes. I'm just trying to figure out what's going to work for me, because I'm not going to be able to swim like Petey. I'm going to have to lift for a couple more years if I want to be 6'10" and move like he does. I think my body, I would probably have to be 320 almost of just pure muscle if I want to move at that stroke rate and like he does. So that's not going to work.
Yeah, we better have you hitting some more bench press, I think. That's for sure. That's going to be a big breaststroker moving through the water.
So I don't know if Durden's going to let me do that. So we'll see.
So you mentioned, connecting your arms and your legs, trying to focus on your own technique and just your own style. What are some ways you go about it? Are you one that does a lot of, watching yourself underwater? Is it more specific drills that get you dialed in, or just kind of general feel for the water?
Yeah, it's a number of things. I definitely try to activate certain parts of my core that I know, when I'm swimming fast, when that 148.5 happened, I knew it was going to happen because I woke up that morning. I knew what needed to feel where. And by the time I finished, my dry land warm up and my core activation, and by the time I did, my pace 50 before the race, I was like, all right, this is going to be a good one. So I try to focus on lower ab engagement, and then I'll do some 25s where I, hold my kickboard out ahead of me, and I'll have my snorkel in, and I'll just try to keep my hips high as much as possible. For maybe 425s, just chill. I'll have Durden watch me, and then I'll try to keep my hips in the same position, moving through a stroke. And if Dave gives me the head nod and walks off, I know I'm in a good spot.
Well, since you brought it up, do you like to do any social kicking with the kickboard?
Of course. We do a lot of social. We when we get our 200 long course social kicks in, that's when it's going to be a good practice.
All right, one day we'll have the social kick. See if you can keep up with Luke and I going. What would we go in a 200 long course social kick? 12 minutes? Ryan, what do you say? Do you think we can
explain it? God, these guys kick so slow.
When we're talking and I'm doing IG Live,
I always kick slow, whether we're talking or not.
Kickers in the 70 to 75 age group. But anyway, go ahead.
Nobody's got time for that. So what do you think about your prospects for the ISL? if there was a draft, which there's still no draft, right? So if there's a draft,
there's a draft happening May, June.
There is going to be a draft. Okay, so by the time that you come around to the draft, what do you think your draft position is? And give your sales pitch as if it was like a job interview for why you should get drafted.
Well, I definitely think I bring personality to the team first and foremost. I love working on teams and developing culture within groups. So I think you're going to get a guy there. I think you're going to get a guy who cares more about his team first. You're going to get a team first kind of guy. But then, obviously I can swim a 200 pretty well. And I think, my 150 have a lot of work to be done, but at the same time, I feel like I'm just growing into my body. I've been growing for so long and I've been tall for so long that I haven't really had like a moment to develop any kind of man strength. I mean, you look at guys like Nathan and Grievers who are so good at, age 30 and stuff like that. It's because they've taken the time to develop their bodies. And it probably took Grievers and Nathan, a little bit longer to grow into their frame. So I think there's still a lot of upside in my swimming and, not just upside in the breaststrokes, but in all strokes. So that's my pitch.
I like it. 2 follow-up questions.
Yeah.
So with the ISL, format, you don't have to name all of them. You can if you want. How many events do you think you could be competitive in? And how would you do in the skins?
You don't get jackpotted.
Yeah, you don't get jackpotted. Yeah, that's a good cap.
That's it.
Yeah. I think, depending on when I come out, it would be like, I'm not going to, let somebody destroy me and it's who I am. Like, even though it is my 3rd event, I do train with like some pretty good guys. So that can come around. I love swimming 100 IM. If nobody else wants to do it, I'll get in there and put up a pretty good performance in that too. I think the skins would definitely benefit me more than others, just because I do go up to the 200. And I think, if any of the endurance shooted sets that we did in the fall have any indicators of what I could do in the skins, I think I'll be in a good spot too.
I was going to ask you, do you know short course meters times, but I'm not going to put you in that place. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think selling you what a 152 2 IM was, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, we don't do too much short course meters work. I think we did a little bit like right before the first season of ISL for those guys to get ready, but I don't think we've done it since then. I think just getting in and racing is like the best part about being an American and swimming in the ISL. So
talk to me what's going on right now with Cal. So you just got back, I'm assuming day or two ago. What are you guys doing and how are you ramping up? Who's training with you? What's the environment like? What's the schedule for the next 10 weeks, I want to say?
Yeah. Well, we've been COVID restrictions are still a thing in California. I don't know if that many other states. So we've had to limit the amount of people that we have in our practice cohorts this entire season. I can't say I've seen Hoff practice once.
Really?
Yeah, this entire season. Yeah. So just to give you like,
Reece Whitley has never seen Hoff practice, yet he wins 3 NCAA championships. Done. Out of context, done.
Yeah, we have a sprint-driven cohort and a mid-D and distance-driven cohort that we didn't get to practice together until maybe like a loosen before NCAAs. And then by the time our group was like after Pac-12s when we had 16 guys that could then practice together, that's the only time where I kind of saw like Bjorn and Hoff and Nate like do their thing. So I've been training with the mid-D guys for the most part, like, Murph, Selly, Zhang Wenhua, Daniel Carr, DC. Trent Julian will come down. He's primarily in like the upper end of the mid D group, but he'll come down and we'll meet on the like long course stroke sets and stuff like that. But in terms of his schedule, I mean, we just got back in today, so didn't want to take much time off, especially after the way NCs went. We didn't feel like we deserved like a 3-day break. No matter how good our meet was or how bad it went, we were going to get back in. So the majority of us were back in today, and we got mission in 2 weeks. So that should be good.
Maybe you weren't watching with the team, or maybe you're in the warm down pool. I don't even know what the setup allowance was at NCs, but what was the team vibe during that Julian 500?
Let's see. That seems like a year ago now. Tejas 500. I must have been watching from the deck, getting ready for 2am.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had a lot of guys swimming that night, so we were kind of spread out. But I could see Chase going absolutely insane on the side of the pool. And by the time I guess I would have been the next race. So I was right there on the pool deck, 5 free championship final, 2am console. Yeah. I was so excited. I mean, that kid works harder than the vast majority of people that I've seen in the sport. So he went out like a dog, like the dog that he is, and those other dudes caught up to him. But it takes real guts to go out. And what was he flipping, like 136 or something like that?
No, you hit out 136. You had guys finishing in what? Did he go 23.2 or 23.6 to anchor? Smith, Kieran.
Yeah.
That was a wild race, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely a fun one to watch. I actually didn't get to watch two back. I was trying to take deep breaths and relax. And I think I was putting my suit on. And there's a microphone in the locker room. So I was just kind of like sitting wide-eyed listening to the play-by-play. And I got a chance to watch it after the meet. But Dustin Lasco is another guy that I'm just so proud of, who came in from the jump and has just worked so hard. Clearly, and went and dropped 5 seconds in a 200 backstroke and a 200 IM. So
if there's, I'm gonna laugh if there's a 134 next year in the 200 backstroke. It's gonna happen at some point, right?
Yeah, it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen pretty soon.
That is unreal. Well, so tell me about the deck dynamics, like having to be a limited number of swimmers that can be there, and no family in the stands or fans, but like all the teams up there. What was that whole thing like, and was it weird?
Yes, very weird. Not being allowed to sit on deck is definitely a bit harder than I remember it being. I actually don't know if I've ever had to do that before. So it was definitely hard. Just like trying to figure out what you wanted to take, on what you're allowed to take on the pool deck and when, and kind of moving through that and making sure you had your clothes with you and your recovery and your suits kind of all in one thing, and literally like living out of a little drawstring backpack from the time you get to the pool to the time you race.
Well, can you talk us through that protocol? Like what was it? What was required that was different about this meet than other meets?
Because trials might be something like this as well. They're gonna copy what it worked, right? So let's talk about it.
Yeah. So they gave us like all little drawstring backpacks that they were the only things allowed like on the pool deck, besides like your equipment and stuff like that. So you had to put like your specific Powerade water bottle like in there. You had to have your deck pass with you at all times. Towels, the clothes that you wanted to swim with, because you're not going to walk back up into the stands and ruin your legs like right before a race. So you literally had to move like everything with you. And then the ready room was on the other side of the pool. yeah, they had a lot of people there making sure that you had your masks on. So there were people who, by the end of the meet, like were kind of ticked off. You're racing very hard, obviously, and then you walk 2 feet, beyond the box, and somebody's already reminding you to put your mask on. It's like, yes, I know, I've done this a lot over the past year. Like, I know you're doing your job. And trying to keep us safe. But yeah, that was another aspect that was interesting too. Definitely a weird situation, but everybody's dealing with it. So, there's no excuse. I mean, everybody's on the same playing field.
But California was, like you said, on a little more restricted level, right? Let's be honest. We're all in California. We'll get California bias going.
Yeah.
I know a few of the Stanford summers I talked to, they had to move like their places 3 times just to kind of keep. I don't even know the rationale behind it, but they had to move multiple times. We had restrictions with pool space and water space. Do you think the California teams are at more of a disadvantage this year at NCs?
I think I wouldn't say disadvantage. Like once you get there, you get there, But yeah, so there are certain things that the California teams had to overcome that others didn't. There definitely were.
We had smoke as well. Don't forget the fires. There was about 2 weeks where you can. Nathan actually evaded smoke and came all the way down to the South Bay to train at the Los Gatos pool for a second. It was so bad at one point.
Yeah, all that stuff that kind of comes with being in a state that's in there are a lot of different things going on in California. But I definitely don't regret going through any of those. I think it just kind of forces you to adapt to new situations. And I think when we do get back to a normal space, I think it'll be more enjoyable for the California teams to kind of go back and say, hey, like we can go in our locker rooms now. I haven't seen my locker room in, a year and 2 weeks now. So, coming in and trying to deck change your way to a fast 2 breast, for dual meets and stuff like that was definitely interesting.
I would love to see your face doing that. That's terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't make those 40-degree fall practices any easier. If you practice in the Bay Area at morning practice, you know how cold it can get.
We're not allowed a deck change on deck at the pool we swim at now. We have to do it in the car park. So you have all these guys in the car park deck changing.
Yeah. So that was, no showers to warm up with. It's raining. We're out there. Our clothes are soaked. So that was fun to lean into that and kind of say, you know what, like we don't care what anybody's going to throw at us. We're just going to, give it our all and do the best that we can. And I feel like we did that from start to finish this season. So I'm just really proud of our boys.
John and I were talking about women's NCs and the rise of the ACC and just see what those two teams did at the ACC. And I was wondering, I'm not saying this, I was wondering if there's anything had to do with the different state politics that led. But then again, Brian, the SEC didn't perform as well, and they were under similar politics and restrictions as the ACC. So is it interesting if COVID affected performances or not? And it was off year. I mean, men's NCs, no records. Well, one guy came like 0.02 close, and Smith came close again. But it wasn't an overall fast meet, was it? I mean, so.
Yeah, it was definitely, there's a whole lot. I think at the end of the day, it's primarily mental.
Yeah.
Like we're still all students at the end of the day. And I can definitely tell you being on a computer screen, like 8 hours a day, trying to go to school, but then still like get up and try to go to practice that, it does get monotonous when, you are doing like the same thing every day, like computer for 8 hours, pool for 4 hours. It's hard on the mentals for sure. So I'm not necessarily surprised that this meet was slower than, what it might have been had there not been a pandemic.
No.
But, there's just so much that, student athletes have had to go through this year. So I think everybody who competed at that meet should be proud that they, just got through it. And, if you want a best time, congratulations. If you didn't, then, it's not the end of the world. So.
I was going to talk about mental. I mean, so the big news of the week in swimming, besides the championship by Texas, is also Eddie Reece and his retirement after 43 seasons and 15 championships and how many second place finishes. And I do wonder, by the way, just thinking about it, if Texas knew about this during the meets and that helped motivate to give Eddie one last one. That's interesting from the mental side. But, Texas is your big competitor for the last decade. That's all talk about, a program like that and a man who can continue tradition. And he's coached some of the greatest breaststrokers of all time, So, I mean, any thoughts or reflections on Eddie Reece and his dominance, for any quirky stories and stuff we want to talk about? I have zero interaction, but you guys all do. So
Eddie's simply one of the greatest, to ever coach in all of sports. I think doesn't matter if it's basketball, swimming. I mean, he is the prime example of somebody who has cultivated a winning culture. And I know that, even though he did retire, he's still going to be around there, still pushing those guys, and his legacy will continue at Texas forever, but it'll last on the sport forever too, because he's touched so many people in so many great ways. And I haven't gotten to know Eddie personally over the years. He's kind of in his zone on the pool deck, so I don't really get a chance to speak to him that much when we're on the deck. But he's just an infectious soul who makes people swim their absolute best, and develops great men over at Texas. So congratulations to Eddie on a great career.
Man, that's really well said. I think, as you guys know, because one of the early podcast guests we had was a buddy of mine, my high school best friend, Wade Kelly, who ended up swimming at Texas and doing well there. Eddie didn't recruit me actually because I wasn't really good enough in high school, and they were capping the number of people that they were recruiting. But like, I really wanted to swim there. I wanted at least to have a shot, and so I got to see Texas through the lens of a friend of mine, and it was, I think you said it really well, Reese, that he's a developer of men, and a soul that it connects with people. We talked with Sergio Lopez, oddly enough, John joking that he might be the next coach, about there's certain personalities, certain people that have such charisma there's like a magnetism to them. Yeah. And once you kind of get within, once within ear range, you kind of don't want to walk away. And, Durden has this characteristic too, where he does. There's something about people like that can connect with everybody and share stories and, make you feel like, so cared for, but also challenged in a unique way. And I think Eddie, although I don't know him well, is one of the few, I think, coaches of this era that I didn't have a chance to interact with much, but seeing it through the lens of other people, he's clearly somebody who's, has that and maybe is sort of the OG. Yeah. The other thing that stands out to me about Eddie in particular is he stuck to his teachings of freestyle technique, where all of Eddie's freestylers swam with their head looking forward some. So it's the high elbow, it's the head forward where they're kind of looking, here. Mm-hmm. And that the rest of the world, Mike Bottom, Dave Marsh, everybody was kind of moving the other direction, and Durden too. Where, the crown of the head is where you're cutting the water, and it's a shoulder-driven freestyle. And so I always found it fascinating that you still had really great success with both schools of thought, and yet as times changed, Eddie stuck to it and then continued to develop really elite athletes. I don't know. I can't think of another example. I'm sure there may be, but that's one that stands out to me with him. He's like a pioneer, and yet, stuck to his guns too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I remember talking with Eddie, and it was at a conference, and we were talking about USRPT because Rushaw was there, and he was telling me, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna start implementing these underwater 25 repeats fly." what happened that year? They had 6 guys in the top 8 in the 100 fly at NCs. So like you said, Brian, it's interesting how he's able to take some, but keep other aspects of his philosophy and obviously create tons of great swimmers. I mean, one thing that I keep thinking while we're talking about this, though, is Dave Durden. And, you know, if anyone is kind of the championships, the great swimmers, it's Dave. Are we going to be having a similar talk in 20, 30 years about Dave at Cal?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, Durden has carried the tradition of excellence at Cal that obviously started with North Thornton better than I think anybody could have. You know, he took everything great about, you know, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s of Cal swimming, you know, and brought them and developed them in his own way to establish kind of the Durden era that I'm, you know, so glad to be a part of in its early stage. And yeah, I think the winning tradition of Cal will last for a pretty long time, as long as Durden's around, because he's pretty competitive. And you know, he is a mastermind. So, you know, with whatever roster he can put together, you pretty much know that roster is going to be vying for a national title by the end of the season. So,
Brian, you came from quite a legacy program yourself, and I was wondering, how do these programs continue the legacy for 30 years? Is it consistency of coaching, recruiting? Is it the role of alumni? Is it seniors? You know, like what does it what happens? I know definitely, Cal, you definitely have a lot of alumni coming on deck, giving back. You have consistency. What keeps these programs going at the top of the game for 30 years? I don't know.
I think it's really hard to underestimate the stability of the kind of centerpiece of the coaching staff. I mean, truly, I don't know if yes, there are examples of big name schools like, you know, Florida, for example, has had success for a long period of time. Texas has, but most of it's been Eddie's era. Indiana was good in an era, and they finally came back, but there was kind of a stretch in between. USC, a long legacy, Michigan. In a lot of those cases, you have, in a lot of them, you've got a coach that was pretty long tenured, or maybe 2 that were really long tenured. And I think that piece is super important. And then they develop this coaching tree that attracts, you know, assistant coaches who want to come be a part of it, and because they know that it's a gateway to other big schools. So, I don't know. I think that especially in the sport of swimming and what we've seen throughout swimming history, and I'm focused, yes, on the U.S. without international examples, but yeah, that centerpiece is super important. So not to say that it can't be replicated with, you know, successors to somebody like Durden, but you know, he started there pretty young, and so you're right. I think you're right, Reese. It's like we're still in the middle of the Durden era, even though I want him to go back and coach Auburn.
He's going to Texas. He was listed on the Swim Slam article.
Oh yeah, I believe everything Swim Slam.
Yes, exactly. No, but Brian, you're right, because Nort would still show up on deck often. I mean, I think Nort was on deck up to a couple of years ago. He's not doing quite well right now, guys. So that's prayers and love to Nort. But he would be around deck forever, way after he retired, way after he co-coached with Mike and then came with Dave. So there's that stability big time, and the alumni truly love it. I mean, you have how many swimmers on your team right now? The dad swam for Cal. You know what I mean? Paul Avison, Matt Biondi, both their kids swim with you right now. I mean, we see a little bit of Borges in Michigan, but they are truly invested in more than just a family. It's a lifestyle, right?
We can ask Rowdy how many parents and siblings are on different teams. He had it all down on the coverage.
Yeah, Louisville guy.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Reese, we're going to end it with a few rapid fire questions.
For sure.
And I want some Reese faces, okay? You have the best faces on there. I want pure, honest, like call bull on us or laugh or whatever you want.
Well, so I'm sure you're referring to that post prelims 2 breast. I was actually.
Oh no! What was that again?
I was stoked. No, I was actually stoked about Hugo getting in, because Hugo, like I saw Hugo's time on the board, and I was like, okay, like yeah, like he obviously didn't have what he wanted in the 4 a.m. in the morning, and he showed up. And we needed him to get the A final, and he did. So
well, we need more reactions like what you guys said, you, Daniel, after your medley when you guys lost that race. We need to see, like, you work so hard for this. So when you lose, it sucks. When you win, it's amazing. And you need to realize what that goes into. And I'm glad the camera stuck in you, because sport is that. It was agonizing, and you need to be real and let people know that stuff. So, I mean, kudos to you. And
Reece, what's the hardest race in swimming?
long course 4 a.m.
Olympic gold, world record, or ISL MVP?
Olympic gold.
If you could start an ISL team, what would you call it?
The Philly Freedom. I guess it's kind of like Philly, and that's very like, I don't know. It might already be a team in Philly. I feel like, I don't know.
It sounds like an MLS team.
I got one.
What?
Reese's Pieces.
I haven't heard that one before. That would be good though. I wonder what the couch would look like, and if we'd get sponsored. If we got sponsored by Reece Pieces, that'd be pretty nice.
And what would you be? Would you affiliate? I guess you'd affiliate with Reece Pieces then, because ISL has the issue with city, state, or oil company that you affiliate with.
True.
Man, I don't think that would pass your nutritionist. If you so you all watched the ISL, was Shimonovich cheating?
Oh man. Oh.
Rapid fire.
I honestly didn't watch that much. I just kind of watched PD's reaction, but I'm let's just say I'm Team Adam. I love that guy, and he's been a bro. So
you gotta help a brother with his start then. Hey, he might be tempo, but not off the block. Hey, so you mentioned man strength. At what age do swimmers develop man strength?
Probably. I mean, I'm assuming 23, 24. I mean, Selly definitely didn't look like he did, in college right now. I can tell you that. Murph too. So we'll see.
I don't think they're old enough for man strength yet.
Oh, you don't think?
Luke's still trying to find it, and he's old. Hey, all right. So we got to settle a dispute though, because after watching this week, I'm not sure that we've got the right verdict, but Shields told us on this show that he is the fastest underwater kicker to 15 in the world. But I'm not so sure that Hoff isn't, especially kicking on his side. So even though you didn't watch him practice, who's faster to 15 underwater, Shields or Hoff?
Oh, man.
Or Murphy?
They're all three are incredible. At what they do.
You only get one.
I'm okay. I'm gonna back my boy Hoff here. Okay.
He looked good. He looked good, man.
He looked insane this week. Okay. So Tom definitely kicks hundreds underwater faster than anybody else. Like I've seen that guy do some pretty disgusting things on like hundreds, only breathing at the turn ends and stuff like that, where it's just like, oh dude, like that is crazy. And then Murph too. You watch Murph swim a 2 back in practice and you're like, okay, like that's why he is the best in the world, is because of his just pure strength off the blocks and carrying that momentum from his start and building that throughout the race. So
I love it. Reese, thanks for hanging out with us. It's fun. We're gonna look forward to watching you train for that 2 breast and rock the world at trials. Enjoy.
I will. Thanks.
All right, buddy. That's it for this episode of the Social Kick Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at The Social Kick Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick. And you can find all of our content on our website at thesocialkick.com.